Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you, Siobhan, for inviting us to speak tonight and to learn something from you guys too. And thank you for all for introducing yourself so we can get to know you. So our plan tonight is to perhaps talk about our own NCA journey, share a little bit of our experience with you, and we'll talk about our experience with volunteering with Amici Curiae AC, and we'll talk about some pros, about some benefits of volunteering with AC, and we'll leave some time for questions and at the end. So I will start with my own story about my journey. It has been a very, very long process for me. I started my law school through correspondence in the UK while I was working full-time. So, it took me 6 years to complete my law degree. And after I completed my law degree, I applied to NCA. I got, I have to do 2 years of in-person law school requirements, and that was very difficult for me. I applied to Allard and I got rejected because primarily I think because I didn't have the academic reference that I needed with being a correspondence online student. So anyways, long story short, last year I started pursuing some mediation and arbitration courses, and this year I started my own mediation and arbitration practice. Yeah. So, Sebastian, do you want to share your experience?
Yes. Yes, I'm Sebastian. I'm practicing in Vancouver, British Columbia now. So completed the journey. Started my own sole practice, and the journey really started with my my ambition to travel and live abroad. So I studied in Queensland, Australia. That's where I did my law degree, 3 years there, and came back to Vancouver, did my, I guess I found full-time work as a paralegal. And while doing that, I did my NCAs. Took a little longer than I hoped, but I mean, I think everyone knows how challenging they actually are. When I completed, so I worked as a paralegal for a number of firms when I was doing the NCAs, and when I completed them, I then articled at a sole practitioner's office, and sort of from someone, I guess, that I knew previously before even actually attending law school. So it worked out quite well for me there. And yeah, from there, my ambitions to work on my own came about. So that's pretty much what I have in my notes. I'm sure you guys will have more questions for me. In terms of the AC Amici Curiae volunteer work, I started that pretty much as soon as I came back from Australia, and I was lucky enough to try all the roles, and currently now serving as duty counsel. So the final person that okays everything, I suppose. It's not really that important though. It's all the work that happens beforehand. So I think that's everything I have for my intro. I see that Miguel joined us, so shall I hand it over to him next? Is he ready?
Hello, yes, I'm ready. I'm sorry I'm late.
Okay, you made it. You made it just in time to give your introduction of you and your story and where you're at in your journey.
Yeah, so I work as a legal assistant. I moved to Canada last year, and before I got my work permit, I wanted to just keep practicing, right? Or get involved into the legal field. So that's how I found Amici Curiae, and I have been volunteering ever since. My role is as chair 2, which is basically we assist chair 1. It can be a paralegal or a foreign trained lawyer. And we help with administrative tasks or research, whatever they need, right? Yeah, that's what I do there. We, as part of the training, we start as observers. That's great because we get to see how things work, right? And then eventually you move to chair 2, and then you move to chair 1.
And can one of you guys tell us a little bit what Amici Curiae does in particular? Because there's going to be quite a few people on this call who probably have zero idea of what Amici Curiae does. Yeah, I can see a few hands waving in the background. Who wants to take charge of that one?
I see. You go ahead, Miguel.
Okay, so we are a pro bono organization. We help our clients we help them with filling their legal forms for a court, for a tribunal. We do Supreme Court, small claims, family law. What else? Jenny, can you help me here?
We also have, over the past 9 years, we started in 2011, and over the past 9 years, we have come up with specialized workshops, like the, ones that focus on uncontested divorce, also targeting Indigenous people, women, who experience gender violence. So we have these specialized workshops, and we also provide our volunteers with training in these areas.
I suppose I can add that it's the whole idea is to provide access to justice for people who can't afford to hire a lawyer. So the overall concept through different workshops, as Jenny commented, is to allow basically self-represented litigants to have some professional help. And most of the workshops are in the capacity that the paralegals or the volunteers help them fill in the forms and help draft certain sections. And then as duty counsel, whoever is serving on that particular workshop, we double check and make suggestions if need be, or also answer any questions that can come up in terms of the procedure process, or any questions the self-represented litigants would have at that stage.
So I guess one of the key points to note there is you're not really giving legal advice. You're more helping with the procedure on it, which is why it's been so popular for so many NCA students and for paralegals to be involved, because you don't have to have that law license by being a member of the bar to be involved with Amici Curiae. And so I know, Jenny, you've been with Amici Curiae for quite a while now.
Yes, since 2011. That's when it started, and I was working as a paralegal at a disability insurance and personal injury firm at that time. And with Amici Curiae, I've had so much more experience in different areas of law, including family law, any disputes, human rights, employment law, many other different areas. And I can experience working with people from different background, different levels of education, different levels of income. I should note that, with self-represented litigants, they come from different income, and we don't have really a income test at our clinic as other organizations. We we take appointments, and we don't really ask, you know, what you make, how much assets you have. So we do have a wide variety of clients that come along to our clinics.
Perfect. And you guys were explaining all of the different roles that you guys can do when you're volunteering. And Jenny, you've done quite a few of those.
Yes, I've been, as Miguel mentioned, I've been a chair one. We started actually back in the days. There's just the one paralegal who helps the client, but as we have expanded, now we have a chair two who's a mentee to the chair one, so that the chair two can help and assist as needed. So while chair one would interview the client, talk to the client, see what they need, chair two would be doing research, or, you know, asking questions, or researching something on their internet, you know, on rules and stuff. So that works out for us. So in the session, the paralegal, the chair one, would start by interviewing the client, and if there are forms to be filled out, we would help them with the pleadings, explain to them what the procedure is, what the timeline is, whether there are any deadlines to file, to serve, how personal service works, how ordinary service works, and so on. So we provide legal information for them so that they could navigate more with ease and peace of mind in the legal system.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And Miguel, what have you been doing as part of your chair two role?
So most of it is, sometimes I have to do some research, like a quick research about maybe a deadline. If we don't remember something, that's what I do. We also keep a client record session where we write down everything that we do. We draft the legal history so we know what's the stage of the client, what are they doing. Every workshop is different, and that's something that I really enjoy because it's really challenging. For me, it's really good because I come from a civil law system, so everything is different here, right? And I really enjoy that because you don't really know what you're gonna be doing that day. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so how many shifts do you guys sign up for? Like, is it a program where you sign up for like 10 hours a week? Are you in there for like one session a month?
It's fairly flexible. Usually, I think a month before the schedule comes out, they will send you an email asking you to sign up for whatever sessions you can be available for. Sometimes I volunteer 4 times a month, 2 hours each time. Sometimes I don't volunteer for 2 months, and it's okay. And yeah, so other engagements would be, I would be asked to do case commentaries, or I've had an opportunity to lecture on the Court of Appeal because I have been a paralegal for a long time, so I did that. That was a big project for me, but you know, it's a great experience.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And probably not something you maybe get an opportunity to do if you're working in a typical law firm necessarily, because that would be the type of thing that maybe the lawyer would do rather than the paralegal.
Yeah, I guess it depends on who you work for and where you work. Yeah.
Yeah, very true, very true. We had a question from Marcio.
Hi, thank you. My question is that in being here in Toronto, how to apply in order to be considered for the to be a volunteer as being in Toronto? How does that works? You work for remotely? How actually works in terms of practicability? How you deliver the work? You deliver everything online? How that works?
So I am not sure if you already talked about AC Virtual, which is what we're doing right now. So since COVID, we are doing the virtual workshops.
Okay.
So that's really nice because everyone can help now.
Oh, perfect.
Even if you are in another province.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So yeah, there's a link. I will provide the link. Let me look for it.
Yeah, I think I put the link into the main website, and then I think if you just click on that, it's in the chat box. And if you click onto that link, it'll open up, and then there's a bit that says about volunteering, and you can click on that, and it's actually a pretty straightforward website.
Yes, I just did.
Which kind of makes sense, given that these guys they're really here to help self-represented litigants to navigate their way through the court process. So, you know, filling out forms and the procedures that are involved. So it makes sense their website is fairly easy to use as well. But I know before...
Can I ask a question? Because
yeah.
I know Alex is on the call. Hey, Alex. So
Hi,
what about
Seb.
if you're outside the country? Can you also volunteer if you're outside the country?
Good question that I'm looking at everyone's faces and I'm thinking, we will need to check with Don on that question.
Yeah, I am not sure.
That we're not certain about. That's a question we didn't ask the chief beforehand on this one.
So I'm just like, as if it's outside the province, then why not outside the country? I think, Alex, you were curious about that, right?
Yes, it's one of my questions.
Okay.
Because when I was looking for some kind of these opportunities for volunteer, so much times for me it's a problem. I really don't find this kind of opportunity to apply for volunteer to help some companies or to give some experience. For example, I'm a lawyer here in my country for 10 years. Maybe I can help a lot. But sometimes it's complicated to find these opportunities to us. It's outside of the country.
Okay, so I guess you should be connecting with Miguel, and maybe you guys can find out for him. Sorry to jump in there.
Absolutely. There we go, Miguel. There you go. You connect with Alex afterwards, and you can follow up with Don and find out what he says on that one.
Yeah, which that's actually another good thing about volunteering here with Amici. We get training constantly. We have free courses for a lot of things, and those are for free because we're volunteers, right? So that's really nice.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about the training? Because I know a lot of it is top secret because it's kept for you guys, but can you tell us a little bit about the types of training you get to do? And I know it's a little different now because it's all online rather than before where it was in person.
Yeah, well, basically the first step is being an observer, right? Then you move to chair 2, where you start working with chair 1. It's basically you learn as you volunteer. You don't really need to do a specific training.
Yeah, but then Jenny was mentioning before that because you work with some of the most at-risk categories of individuals in society, there are certain courses, right?
Oh, yes.
There was a new one I think you guys implemented, was it late last year, early this year in particular?
I will jump in here. I'm not sure, I don't know if it's really top secret, but I would not mention the name of the lecturer, but you know, I think it was 2 months ago, we had a trauma-informed course for practitioners, for lawyers, for, you know, students working with Indigenous people and, you know, victimized clients. So I think these are really helpful courses, not only in our capacity as, you know, volunteers in AC, but, you know, in your legal career. I know that many law schools have implemented programs, access to justice programs, and they've, you know, offered courses dealing with self-represented litigants because of the increased in number of self-represented litigants that are in the court system representing themselves, appearing in court. So that is, I think, a very important component for, you know, for many of us.
Can I add in a few things I just thought of, I guess, relating to all the questions. So yes, as was Jenny saying there, we offer continuing legal education programs, and here, when you're practicing as a lawyer, you're actually required to keep taking courses and do, I think it's 12 hours of training every year. So I find that it's a great resource to have as a sole practitioner too, because when, for example, I'm volunteering here, I don't actually have to pay full price to get the courses, and the material is quite good too, because it will help expand if you want to try a different field or pursue a slightly different area in the law, or just learn more about it. So I find it quite helpful, and even in the capacity of doing the workshops, it helps us improve our skills. To also add about the point of jurisdiction, so I'm not quite sure if what the process is in enrollment in our program. Hopefully we all can get an answer, but just my experience of living abroad, I would recommend finding volunteer experience anywhere you can. So whether it's locally, for example, when I was in Australia doing my degree, there was a whole full culture of pro bono work, and there was actually like a community law center where lawyers would come and volunteers would come once a week and do programs, and the ability just to sit in and observe is quite helpful. To add to the point of jurisdiction though, if I would suggest that if there's a particular area in Canada that you want to qualify and practice to, then finding localized programs within that will also get you that exposure. Because we're helping litigants just in our province, the forms and the procedure that we do are quite specialized just for this province. So, for example, if you're interested in starting to practice in or be qualified in our province, it's a fantastic opportunity to even observe and to get to know that process. From my experience, when I was working as a paralegal and volunteering, I found it really useful, because you go through law school, you know the general principles of the law, and it's great, but you don't know which form to start at. You know, your lawyer says, "Well, we need to start proceedings, so yeah, here's the facts, draft away," and you're like, okay, where do I start? So the experience of being able to see that and to learn from all the different volunteers is really unique, and I think you can pick that up probably, you know, it's not just our organization, it's any organization, volunteer based. And I think now with this Corona pandemic, we have a mixed benefit of now everything's going online, and when we're doing things more remotely. So it's the opportunity now to be able to find those experiences, even if you're not physically present. I think just keep a lookout on that. So hopefully I haven't overstepped my bounds here.
Can I ask you a quick question? Sebastian, when you're saying forms, or anybody else, is a statement of claim, are you considering that a form?
Correct.
You're not just saying forms like literally just form. You're just saying as in like a draft or something, or like
Yeah,
A
pleadings are
pleading.
part of what you do, right?
that's correct. So our workshop,
Great.
as was said previously, we have to be really cautious about giving legal advice based on the rules around us. Only lawyers can give legal advice. And when you come to these workshops, you're faced with we have I volunteer regularly at a generic workshop, so we have issues anything from a car accident to a divorce to a neighbor dispute to a death. So even even as a lawyer, when I come to this, it's not an area that I normally practice with every day. So I would feel very uncomfortable to give specific advice to the people that come in because it's it's outside my area of practice. So by limiting it to, as we use the word forms, but whatever the proceedings that need to be filed to start an action, and it's court actions, it's tribunals, it could be even appellate court. We will do the research and we will ensure that we identify to our clients that there's deadlines you should think of. This is generally the process. You'll need to file the following documents, and we'll help them write certain statements, like in a statement of claim. We'll say, well, okay, let's put your emotions out of it. Let's just go by facts. So it's really sort of giving them a snippet of what a lawyer would do and helping them basically have that experience. But in the end, they're self-represented, so we don't go to court on their behalf. We just help them prepare for everything. And I've even suggested things like, when you're in court, when you have your hearing, try not to talk about certain things that you've said out here. I mean, and for me, it's a real challenge because yes, I'm there as duty counsel. I am a lawyer, but I also I shouldn't be giving direct legal advice to their cases, but just focus on the task at hand, which usually is, statement of claim or requisition for something. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Sam.
Yeah, that does. So essentially some of your work is assisting them in doing like a first draft or some drafting, which is
That's
great
correct.
experience. That's amazing experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's
from the litigation point of view, I mean, that's one of the bulk of what we do, right? We're drafting these pleadings. That's great.
It's unique.
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah, please.
Siobhan, do you mind?
No, this whole session is designed that you guys pepper them with questions and they will do their level best to answer because they're trained to answer crazy questions.
So it's not, maybe, I don't know how crazy it is, but so where are you getting the initial drafts though? Do you have a database that's been built over the last 10 years, or you're just going online and you're just pulling, I don't know, I guess some form that you find online? For example, you want to start a separation proceeding. Has that like database been built over 10 years? Is that how it works?
So let's, sorry, should I be taking this question? We've had, I think it can be done both ways, really. So it depends on, we have, like Jenny was mentioning, specific workshops. So for, uncontested divorces, yes, there is a little database that we have, but they're just the blank court forms that you could pull off the website. It was traditionally just to help us get them faster. Generally, what I find is usually the volunteers are paired off with some sort of expert experience. So, for example, we have to do conflict checks to make sure that we can actually see these people. So often, because we work at bigger firms, we won't be able to help someone because we've represented the other party at some stage. And in that process, we have someone coordinating, saying, okay, we'll sit this person down with this client. And I've seen it where the paralegals, some of them have years of knowledge, so they'll actually know more than me as a lawyer, and they'll have their own forms or we can go on the website and pull out the proper form that's used, or sometimes the client even brings a form that they've started by paper, and we settle down and help them with actually completing it. And a lot of it really is the skills that you're learning are helping, basically thinking like a lawyer. So you're telling the client, you know, you're interviewing them and you're saying, you know, I understand yes, it's hard, these are the emotions, but let's stick to, like, let's come up with a chronology. Let's so you're guiding their efforts and really pushing the case forward, because a lot of the times without this sort of help, and so I'll touch a little bit about my experience of volunteering in Australia, where there was just lawyers giving generic advice. That was all great, but those self-rep clients would show up in court, they wouldn't know how to behave. They started talking about all sorts of things that were off topic or, you know, not the issue at hand, and their cases don't go very far. They weren't very effective. So our hopes with this is, yes, it works alongside with other organizations that provide generic legal advice, but AC is sort of the ones that the people, after they get that advice, the hopes is they come here and we're like, okay, so now that you know you want to proceed with this court claim, you know, let's help you fill out your statement of claim and your application, etc. So.
No, it's great. Does anyone else have any questions for Jenny and Sebastian and Miguel? I have a question, but you guys get to go first. Okay, well, whilst you think of your questions, so you guys were doing this in person. So up until March, you actually had physical workshops with like a venue and a time, and people would sign up, the clients would sign up and they'd come to a particular slot. How are you doing it now virtually? How does it work?
So we are volunteering once a week, every Thursday. We also receive a training for volunteering virtually, how to use Zoom, how to teach the clients how to use Zoom, which that was challenging too, because a lot of people can't, they're not used to using the computer, right? So we provide a training for that, and we volunteer from 5 to 8 every Thursday.
Is it from 5 to 8?
Yeah.
I thought it was only 2 hours, but we do go over time, yes, sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the clients are screened. So there's the paralegals and the lawyers are sent the client names and the opposing parties' names to check, you know, the conflicts. If they have a conflict of interest, then they don't help that client, they would help another client. And before the workshop, the client would get a Zoom training. I think it's only half an hour, a very short one, with one of our volunteers, and just to make sure that, you know, they are ready and they have a computer, they have their technology is ready, and they know how to use Zoom. And then on the day before, we all receive an email with a link to sign on to Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah, we can also review the file on the cloud.
Right.
That link has all the information, the legal history, the client session record. So we know what we have to do. We can start, we can even start drafting the application before, or do some research.
Okay, so that's all done as part of the pre-screening of the client to kind of dig out some of that information so that you're kind of pre-armed beforehand. You're not just walking in or virtually Zooming in cold.
Can I add to sort of the logistics while everything's happening too? It's worthwhile to mention that we have different chat rooms. So there's, for example, there'll be the two, it sort of mimics the format where we had, where it would be the paralegal and observer, or sorry, we call them chair 1, chair 2. I've also, it's changed for me. So essentially it's it's like a room and then two people with the client. And then we have like a hallway outside where, say, I would be waiting as duty counsel, or there'd be the triage. So there's people sort of monitoring and then can enter the conversation or can leave, or those people, like the two volunteers, can leave the conversation and say something privately in like the hallway. And the idea is that it's often helpful to come up with a strategy or more details before coming into the conversation, because the volunteers interview and take, I guess, the bulk of the information, and sometimes need help to guide the meeting to go a certain way, or might not know something, and so they'll want to confirm or check. And that's where, like Miguel was mentioning, he's been asked to research things quickly outside sort of the picture. So there is a whole support network happening behind the whole meeting, and that's really great to know, because sometimes these meetings can be challenging, because the topics can range all over the place, and you may or may not have experience dealing with a particular document or guiding the client in a certain way. And this allows for you to have that support, and that you never feel alone, or you don't have to say, I don't know what's going on to the client. So it's certainly, it's good to know that there's a lifeline like that. So.
Absolutely. And do you see repeat clients? So you see them coming back at different stages in their proceedings, or is it that they just come to you once initially?
We do have repeat clients, yes, at different stages of their proceeding.
And different matters too. Same client, but a new form.
Yeah.
Is it unlimited? They can keep coming to you? They just...
Yes,
I mean,
if they need
like literally
help,
every
yes,
step they keep coming?
Yes, they do.
Oh, wow.
Some do, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we don't, we don't use the chat from Zoom. We use an app called Slack. So that's where we have a group chat, and all the session is just messages. I need help with this. Do you have a form for that? I need assistance. Can you come into the meeting?
Is there a number of hours though that they can use up, or literally they just can, they do can they just use you as they're like the partner in the firm and you're the associate, and they just do a draft, they send it back to you, they revise it, they send it back, have a look at it? Like, can it be like that?
It could potentially, but there is a challenge in getting an appointment back. So the number one thing we're always telling our clients is to watch out for limitation deadlines, etc. So the process, generally people are good about not abusing this system. So most of the people that we help are low income. So to file court proceedings or to pay the next fee in their process can be costly for them. So I don't find that it gets abused a whole lot, I guess, if that's what you're worried about. I've had an experience where there was some clients that just kept wanting to appeal things, and it was a hard conversation, but we effectively said that, and the lawyer has to do this, is play the bad guy mask and say, you're abusing the system, right? Like, we have a reputation and dignity to uphold as an organization. If we keep writing vexatious claims, then our organization is going to suffer because of that. And so we weren't prepared we told, the client he's exhausted all revenues, and we weren't going to draft anything further for him, because based on the information he was telling us, it was a vexatious claim. And we said, you're welcome to, we pointed him to different resources, but we weren't prepared to see him at another workshop. So that was a very rare incident, and we actually talked all the way up the hierarchy on that one. So
I remember that, Sebastian.
do you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was at the Vancouver Library one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember doing, the reason I'm asking, I remember doing some pro bono work in Ontario back in 2000. It's been a while now, but I think we had a 1 hour limit on assisting people just because the demand was so high that we had to limit 1 hour, and they can come back. But by the time they came back to get more help, I think the waiting list was like a couple weeks just to see somebody.
Yeah. That's what it happens. And so that monitors itself not to be of use too much.
So almost the system is self-limiting purely by resources available and time available within the time limits for the proceedings as well.
Yeah, I should add that at every session, the chair one would put in the record at the end saying, you know, whether the client needs to come back for an other session and whether it's going to be 1 hour or 2 hour for the next session, or that's it. You know, you should be good to go. You can just file it and you can come back in the next stage, but this document should be ready to be filed. So we put that as a note, and if there are any deadlines, we're happy to, you know, accommodate, but we do need to look at the big picture and see who else needs help. And with the virtual clinic, only, you know, certain numbers of people can help each week now. So there is a limit and there's a long wait list, I believe, yeah.
So before you were doing it virtual, you were doing physical clinics in different locations, right? And was that just in Vancouver or across the Lower Mainland as well? Had you?
Across the Lower Mainland, we have clinics in Surrey, in Richmond, in downtown Vancouver, the East Side. Yeah, I think that's about it. But we have several in downtown. Yeah.
So for those of you who are not familiar with Vancouver and the Lower Mainland, it's basically the GTA. So they cover the majority of the GTA equivalent through different centers. And you use places like when you're doing the physical workshops, and before COVID, you were using things like the public library as like meeting places and venues like that. So readily accessible places that your clientele would feel comfortable in, I suppose, and also a place they would likely know where it was and was local to them. So it wasn't making it prohibitive for them to actually access your services as well and support.
Exactly. Yeah. So with the downtown East Side, we, I think we intentionally put it there because, you know, there are people who are more comfortable in that setting, and it's more accessible in downtown. You know, the transit system is more accessible to them. So, and the public library, we had it at a mall, at a library in a mall, and the SkyTrain is just right next to it. So that's where, you know, we picked the location so that clients would hopefully feel more comfortable and they can get there easily and don't have to stress about that part.
Absolutely. As my last question for you guys, I'm sure other people have burning questions, but what makes you keep volunteering? What makes you keep coming back? I mean, Jenny, you've been doing this since 2011. Sebastian, you've been doing this for a number of years now, and you know, what keeps you coming back every year?
For me, it's really gratifying because I know that my time, I have a limited, you know, as everyone, as all of you, you know, we have a limited set of time, but every time I finish volunteering, I know that I've helped someone, I've listened to somebody, I've, you know, talk with them and I've acknowledged the emotions, their problems, their story, and I feel that I've helped them along their way and with one little problem, and I feel that it's just how I can contribute my knowledge back to the community.
Good reason.
That was really well put. Hard to follow. I was going to say all of that. It's actually, yeah, I've always believed in volunteering, and you come out of these workshops hoping that you made a difference. Sometimes it doesn't always feel that way. People are, I mean, it's the justice system, it's imperfect, but you're hoping that you did actually help someone. And we've had cases where, you know, there was homeless people that otherwise wouldn't get advice or wouldn't be able to try and get their home back. The other thing that I wanted to mention, though, and it's a little bit more selfish, and you're probably all interested in this one, is it does actually create a networking aspect, and you do get to meet people in the field and connect and, you know, get to know faces, learn skills. So it's quite beneficial too, and you get out of it what you are prepared to put into it. So I found it particularly helpful as an NCA candidate and later looking for articles to meet people, to make connections, and you never know who you're going to meet and what relation will come out of it afterwards. So being a sole practitioner, my network, you know, I don't have a large office where I can pick a colleague's brain. So I find it invaluable to meet people, and particularly lots of paralegals that actually have way more skills than the lawyers, because they just know that it's go-to people. So you can quickly pick up the phone and connect with someone that you've met at a session and say, hey, you know, I noticed you were doing, you know, you were really good at this particular thing. Can I pick your brain at it? So it really is helpful in that way. The other thing that I wanted to tie it in is now it's virtual, so it's harder to make those connections. And I think the effort has to be there to actually introduce yourself and to be more sort of an extrovert as we all work through the changes of now virtually connecting. So yeah, that's my little blurb. Maybe Miguel has something more to add to that.
Yeah, so when I was in Mexico, I used to do a lot of pro bono for human rights, and I really enjoy that. And I don't know, I guess when you see the client, when you see how happy they are when you're helping them, I think that's the reason why I volunteer. Have been volunteering probably every week or almost every week since I started. It's just great. There's a lot of good reasons for volunteering, as Sebastian mentioned. You do a lot of networking, you get experience, you get training, and you help. It's just great.
That sounds a pretty good reason to volunteer right there from all three of you. So we're starting to run rapidly out of time because I know these guys are supposed to be volunteering tonight. So they've actually given up their volunteering slot to be here tonight. But does anyone have any questions for these guys, whether it's about their volunteering with Amici Curie, whether it's about their journeys themselves? Now is the time, hit that little blue button and we'll come around in order. Abby, you're up.
Thank you, Siobhan. I've got two questions, really. The first one is, I'd like to know if the Amici Curiae volunteering role is only available to helping clients in BC alone. Basically, what I mean is, if someone needs help in admitting, for instance, would that service be available to them? And the second question relates to the training. If you have a volunteer that is outside of BC, how do they get the training? You know, you said before COVID, we have some in-person training, but for someone that is outside of BC, how do they get the training?
So I can answer your second question. Well, with COVID now, we have all the training online. So you potentially volunteering from outside of BC can attend these sessions online. I believe when we had those in-person training, they were all recorded. So if you're a volunteer, you could potentially get those recordings sent to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, not sure if Miguel and Sebastian has anything to add.
I'll try and answer the first question, but I'm probably making it up.
Yeah,
the virtual component of this workshop is so new that I don't think we've really had the chance to think about other jurisdictions. I think it's a very noble and it's a great idea, and it probably will happen in the future. The technical challenge is that all these sessions, the workshops, have to end with a lawyer signing off as duty counsel saying, yes, this is the correct, I've checked over the forms, and there's that component of supervision. So from what I suspect is we haven't reached out to outside jurisdictions to get that volunteer basis to do it that way. So that's my suspicion, and this is just a suspicion, and it may change. So, but yeah, I'm sure as you've all done constitutional law for the NCA and know that how wonderful our Canadian federal system is, each province has its own limitation dates and set of procedures. So that's the challenge here in Canada.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think, Abby, if you knew somebody who needed some help, then you could probably reach out to Amici Curiae and they could suggest somebody who might be able to help locally. They do have a pretty wide network between all the volunteers that they may know of another organization that's more local and that's in the right jurisdiction that might be able to help.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else have any questions? Do you want to know about, going to school in Australia, going to school online, what it's like to come from a civil law background? Miguel very kindly told me a little bit about his civil law experience when we met at an in-person mentoring session that we did pre-COVID. So I got to learn a little bit about civil law, because I know nothing about civil law other than it's nothing like common law. So it would kind of be like me trying to fill in corporate forms in Ontario, which I am rubbish at, because the Ontario company registry, company's house type thing is completely different to the BC one. They actually require you to print the form and sign it with a pen and mail it back to them. It's not online, which I have to say, BC, I'm assuming it's similar for court forms. A lot of it is now online for court forms as well. So it speeds the process up a little bit.
Can I ask a question, Sebastian? So how long have you been practicing now solo?
So this is the 2 years. 2 years.
Okay, nice,
so,
nice.
Yeah, it's very stressful. I don't think I make any money, but it's getting there. So especially now with COVID, the relearning, I guess, as with all the forms and relearning how to file things and not signing it personally and observing all the rules, profitability has certainly gone down. So
yeah, learning curve.
And there's also a resistance with clients, I guess, with the economic turmoil. So I mainly practice wills and estates, real estate, and I do a little bit of corporate forms as well, just incorporations. So
transactional.
Yes, transactional. So I've planned to, because I'm entirely on my own, I don't even have an assistant. I can't spare going to the courtroom, so I've really focused my my practice on more transactional cases. And it's actually, before all this, it was great because I already had cloud server set up and, you know, online consulting as well. So it was, I guess I was lucky.
Absolutely. And
I didn't hear from, can I ask Miguel, I didn't hear what were you doing? What's your day job?
So I work as a legal assistant. It's
Okay.
a personal injury firm.
Okay.
Have been working there for 8 months. It's my first job in Canada, actually.
And you're still going through the NCAs, or sorry, you completed that?
No, I just applied, actually.
You just applied for the NCAs?
Yes,
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So you're at the beginning of the journey.
I am.
Just first step.
Yeah, so
Nice.
I was talking with a lot of foreign trained lawyers, and a good advice they
Sorry.
gave me was to just try to work before applying or anything, because at the end that's going to add more to your experience.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
I really focus on that, trying to find a job.
fantastic. And Jenny, because I know a few people joined after you and then Sam were talking, but tell us about your new practice.
So I only started in January, setting up websites, talking to mediators, arbitrators, connecting with people at Mediate BC, ADR BC, which is where I got my mediation and arbitration training. So I've after I set up my website for like 2 months, I haven't had like any calls at all. But I've been, you know, trying to spread to get myself known out there. So I did, you know, recently started to get some referrals on real estate and some employment issues, disputes. And I'm also actually, I'm lucky that my old boss asked me to do some file management for her at her firm. So, you know, I have some income coming in, and I'm also doing, I'm also a member at the Property Assessment Review panel. It's an administrative tribunal. I adjudicating property tax disputes as well. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. I'm starting slowly with my practice and just trying to, just trying to get myself out there and get more experience, basically,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I will talk to you, Sam, about mediation.
Well, the last, I'd say, obviously, you know, 3-4 months, I've had so many calls in Ontario with commercial tenants trying to get out of their leases.
Right.
It's a big problem right now. I don't know what's going to happen as soon as the CIRSA program ends. We're going to have a lot of these tenants trying to get out of them. So you should see an uptick in business in trying to mediate between, you know, landlord and tenants on the commercial side. I don't do any residential because that's a board, that's a whole other thing. But on the commercial side, there's going to be a lot of work of tenants trying to get out of their leases because, as you know, a lot of people are rethinking their commercial space, right? Why do we really need 15,000 square feet if half the people we have here can just work from home?
Yeah, totally agree.
Absolutely. And so, Jenny, for those of us who don't know that much about ADR and mediation and the courses you were talking about, how many hours of courses did you do?
The basic training is 40 hours for arbitration and mediation, so a total of 80 hours. And I also attended a conference last year. It's a 2-day conference. I've been taking some webinars as well as part of my continuing education for my mediation arbitration qualification.
So you have to do CLE, CPD in the same way that lawyers do once they're called to the bar as well?
Yes, yeah.
So how many hours a year do you have to do?
I'm not sure. But I know I've exceeded the number of hours just because I've been at home, during COVID, and I just thought, what's the best time to attend these courses online,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jenny, who's your who's your target client? Are you targeted the lawyers that then will come to you with the mediation? Or are you trying to target the end client?
The end clients, yeah, the end clients.
Can I ask, how are you doing that? Like, what kind of, how are you marketing? It's just word of mouth, or are you trying to do, sorry, I'm just very curious. Because I started kind of my own firm about 1.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing my own marketing now. So I'm just curious what's working for people.
Well, most of my clients, like half of my clients, come from just looking up on my website.
Okay.
Like a Google search, and then half is from referral. Could be from any people, like any person that I know. Do you use
like Google ads? Are you doing like search optimization?
I have done that. I don't really find that useful. You do get lots of traffic coming in, but at the end, whether it materializes into business, I don't think that it worked for me, at least for the past few months. I've stopped using that. So
it's expensive too.
It is very expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, all my clients are still word of mouth. I've tried so many different things, and I find word of mouth is just the best. But it's like word of mouth is so random, right? Like I'm always like, can I really just depend on word of mouth? But so far it's worked well.
It's working.
But I'm trying different things, different Google ads, Facebook ads. But so far it's just doing that. Sorry.
And Sebastian, what about for you? Because you have your own firm too. How are you doing?
I'm captivated to see you're always learning. I've found that it's the quality of referral that really saves time in the end. So the best referrals that I've been getting is just by building power networks. So meeting different industries that are compatible in terms of my work. So I'm really excited about wills and estates. That's where I do the bulk of the work, and I've connected with a number of insurance brokers that actually do life insurance. So, excuse me, part of their intake process is actually checking in with people and asking about their estate plans, because it's a really for me it's more education. Everyone thinks you got to be 90 years old and rich to have a will, versus my clientele. It's different to the traditional law firms where I'm targeting younger adults, I guess. So young professionals just starting out, so who have corporations and might need some strategic estate planning at this stage to start building that empire. So for example, the networks I build are people that are also in sort of the entrepreneurial world that then recommend it. So I really cherish those relationships, and I find that gives me the best clientele, because like you said, the other kind of word of mouth can be really random, or it could be something that you're expanding on, and turns out it can be it's not worth the profit in the end, right, in terms of your time spent and what you're writing off. But I think this is a continual art that we're all learning, and I mean, if some of you have been lawyers for over 10 years, you're probably better at it than we are, but it's a skill that's always evolving.
Well, I'll tell you the challenge. So you're more transactional. Transactional, you're basically you're targeting the entire market. I mean, anybody could potentially need a will. With litigation, like my average client's paying around $50,000. That's hard to find a client that's got 50,000, disposable income, willing to, have a litigation that's gonna, go on for a couple of years. And it's also like, you can't really predict who's gonna get sued or want to sue, right? So the litigators like me, I don't know if anybody's interested in litigation. So what I would advise you is we actually have to be very well connected with the transactional people. And so in a sense, our target market sometimes can be the transactional lawyers, because then, you know, when they see the transaction going sideways, or they create this kind of, you know, connection with this client, and those connections kind of last for many years, and they come to their transactional lawyer, and transactional lawyer might say, hey, you know, I do know a litigator. So, and then they'll refer, you know, them to us. But it's harder as a litigator because you don't know who's going to be, you know, getting sued or suing, versus transactional, your market is a bit broader. So keep that in mind for future litigators. Make friends with your transactional lawyers.
I was going to add to dine out. And because the restaurants that I've been to, they're all saying, oh, you're a lawyer. Oh, we need to renegotiate our rent. So I was actually just thinking of you and Jenny that, see, this is a power network happening already, you see?
There you go. There you go.
I was going to be like, yeah, we can, you know, we can take it on. And I know just the mediators to set it up and, you know, work through it amicably, because, you know, you've invested so much in your business. The last thing you want to do is move.
I like it. A good sales pitch.
Yeah, and why not? Then you also get to go to Dine Out as well. So for anyone who doesn't know, I don't know if Dine Out happens around Canada, but Dine Out is a series that happens in Vancouver that encourages us to go to restaurants. And they have set menus at special prices to encourage us to go in. And I think it's normally a couple of weeks long, right? But they've just launched it that it's going to be Dine Out outside. I think is how it's being pitched, or dine out or something like that. And the idea being that we're going to take advantage of all of the new parklets, which is basically where the city has agreed that restaurants and bars can take over a parking space outside of their establishment and put up a little piece of string to separate you from the passing cars and put some tables and chairs down to give them some outdoor dining space. Some of them are really good, some of them are really sketchy, because there are literally cars going right past you. But Dine Out is a fantastic idea, but there's also somebody who does personal injury, just crying out, hang around outside those Dine Out restaurants. But no, most of the restaurants, I think all the restaurants are doing a fantastic job of trying to adapt and get their patrons back in safely. But yeah, that's a great example right there of power networking. And Sebastian, I need to get in touch because I have some potential will clients. So I've been looking for somebody. My wills lawyer quit and went in-house, so I needed a new person. Now you'll be my go-to referral in this case. But guys, does anyone have any last questions for these guys, or shall we let them go and let you all go to bed? Because I know it's getting late on the East Coast. And also in other parts of the world. It's getting quite late. Any last tips from our mentors? Anything that you wish you'd known when you were first starting out with your legal careers?
I was just going to add the whole process of trying to get qualified and doing the NCAs and then finding articles is daunting and it's challenging. So I was quite hard on myself, and I think this organization did not actually exist when I was doing it, and I wasn't aware of it. And I sure wish that I had known more people going through the same experiences, because it's quite challenging, and it's nice to connect and know that there's other people doing similar things and sharing the experiences and learning from that. So I commend everyone here for doing just that now. And volunteering is definitely another way to meet other people. And as you just saw, the magic of power networking, it can happen anytime in any form. So do make yourselves known, and I challenge everyone to be more extroverted at this time, because, you know, as we're meeting virtually, the traditional way of, you know, just the handshake and being next to someone is no longer how business and, you know, your reputation is going to get out there. So we're all faced with the challenge of reinventing the wheel as it is and connecting virtually, and just relearning how to meet people and make that connection. So.
Great tips, thank you. Jenny, Miguel, you got any final words? You can say no.
Well,
No,
just, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I will say that if it's in your possibilities to volunteer, you should do it.
Yeah, and you guys can pass your names to us and we can pass it to Dome if you're interested in volunteering with our organization. Just one last word. I think, you know, for myself, it definitely feels like a very, very long process, and you know, just don't get discouraged. Keep networking, keep talking to people, and there are many people out there who are willing to help and connect you to others. So thank you very much and good luck to you all.
Great. Well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for coming and telling us about Amici Curiae today. It was really, really useful. Guys, thank you for all of your questions today as well. I love the fact that you're all taking part and you're all bringing those questions for our mentors and using this opportunity to explore different opportunities and different types of practice of law, and help decide what you want to do with your careers, or maybe you want to change your career later on as well. Next week is the British Columbia chapter AGM, so it's not going to be a traditional mentoring session, I'm afraid. It's going to look a little bit different because we're going to vote some new directors in. So if anybody is in BC and you would like to get involved with Local Lawyers of Canada, now is your opportunity. We are accepting 3 new directors. We are getting 4 new members at large. So we are taking an NCA candidate, an articling student, an LLM candidate, and a junior lawyer. So a junior lawyer is anyone who has gone from just being called all the way up to 10 years called. We are not discriminatory in that regards. If you want to find out more about it, you can send me an email, you can send me a LinkedIn message. I'll give you some more details on that. For anyone who's in Ontario, the Ontario chapter have their small group mentoring program is launching very soon, so they're still taking applications from mentors and mentees. You can find out more information by going to glcanada.org and then go to Get Involved, and you'll find all the details in there, or you can just contact Sam and he will point you in the right direction for that one as well. For anyone who's anywhere else in the country, we have just launched our Atlantic chapter, so that's anywhere down the Atlantic coast. We've also launched in Saskatchewan, and we always have a home original founding chapter in Calgary with their spin-out chapter of Edmonton as well. We've got lots of events planned for you for the rest of the year, but if there's anything you guys want to know about or you want us to do an event on, please do get in touch. We've also launched our UK Ambassador program as well, and we are working with specifically UK universities because lots of Canadian students go to UK universities to go to law school. And so we're going to help them and pre-arm them with a little bit more information about what it's like when they're going to come back to Canada and start their legal careers. So if you are at a UK university, please do also get in touch. We'd like to hear from you too. And on that note, have a fantastic evening, have a lovely weekend, and we will see you all very, very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
Siobhan.
you, everyone. Have a nice
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.